All right. So it'll probably take me more than one video to get through this, if I get through it at all. Now, my point really, at this point, talking to Gary, it's like, he doesn't treat people like he demands to be treated. He says his overt insults, making sex jokes about having sex with animals, weight jokes, making fun of a guy's black eye, that's just more overt. We do it more subtly by insulting his ideas. But he insults our ideas. Those idea insults are fair play. There's no reason to go to this other petty stuff and then complain other people are petty. That's really the main issue, frankly. Because it shouldn't be shocking that I find Gary's ideas on physics silly. They're silly. And he won't listen and try to understand other people's position. He just riffs off every single word, like every single word triggers him or something. Now, on the physics topic, and related to that, Gary says that in his videos yelling recently that the only function of the brain is to satisfy needs, right? The only function is to satisfy needs. So how is this thing supposed to be smart enough to understand the fundamentals? If the fundamentals aren't common sense, and it must be nonsense. See, I think that the data is the important part. The data that we see. And if acceptable ordinary reasoning doesn't apply, then there must be a problem with it. There must be a way to improve our understanding. Just like it's weird to think if I go in that direction long enough, I'll come up behind. That's weird, but we wrapped our heads around it. And the universe is made of information because a territory is its own perfect map and the only possible perfect map. When I make a map, yeah, I'm copying some of the information. It's an imperfect copy. I can go up in a satellite and take a picture of California. It looks a lot like a map of California, made right there from California, because the information is in there and you can copy some of it, but not all of it because of the laws of thermodynamics and, for that matter, quantum mechanics. I think that's an interesting subject. Gary won't be able to discuss that because he's just going to go, oh, this is stupid. But I saw a video of Gary's and my reply to it from 5 years ago came up and I watched him. You know, Gary was saying some very different things back then. He'd probably call himself, if he met himself in a time machine, he'd probably call himself a fucktard, asshole, liar, router, do. Yeah, that's over the line, Gary. Yeah, it is. But it's internet and people get away with it, like me. Yes, I know. Yes, there's no problem. You're going to get away with it. So, okay. Let's try this.
Draft physics video. Yay, been a little while. I've been working on the written crap. Yeah, I really hate writing. Currently, for whatever reason. But anyway.
See, here's where Gary, you would pause and say something like, well, I hate reading your writing. Who wouldn't want to read your writing? Because you're a big lame-ass asshole that doesn't understand that things suffer.
It has to be done and such. So anyway, a little tedious. And so, anyway, there really hasn't been any feedback arguments to make anything of, and there's nothing happening in the rest of the physics universe that I can find that's of interest. But I could do a comments video, lots of comments to deal with, I suppose.
Well, that's why.
You didn't know maybe that later. Anyway, so there's this Piro video, half a day on fields. But he spends the beginning of the video not doing half a day on fields. And it doesn't really matter. I mean, his field theory is such a bunch of ambiguous whatever, and this is the guy.
That just means that you don't understand what I say about fields, and I don't think technically I have a field theory. have an understanding of fields, I think some concept of fields, and etc. The details would be important if you were able to discuss details. It's not ambiguous just because you can't wrap your head around it, especially when you refuse on purpose to even try.
Guy who,
And I don't ask you to try, do I? No, I'm perfectly happy to talk about your system. I don't think you can understand. You can't think of things complex enough to take into account the real data that we've seen. So when you're in denial that it is real data, and so I'm perfectly happy to discuss your simple toy system.
who qualifies other people's science as being intuitional or pseudoist.
Yeah, because of what you say about it having to mathematically check out, and what you say about your ultimate requirement is the reason it has to make sense to you. It has to be totally common sense. It's simple, and it has to be simple, and yet you just have a brain that evolved for your bodily needs. Why the hell would the fundamental laws of physics have to be simple? That's way, way, way more complex, way more esoteric than anything it has to do satisfying your needs. So you are going with your gut. Your gut is the thing that tells you whether does that reasoning make sense? And since there's data showing that the reasoning you're using is insufficient, then that means you're also ignoring the data. That means you're going just with your gut. How it doesn't feel right, the data. So the universe, reality must be wrong. The part that's the most concrete, the data that we take, you pretend nobody's taken it. Pretend that nobody's taken it. You say things like they're hiding the real diffraction pattern, nobody admits that, and show pictures that scientists have produced of that pattern that they're supposedly hiding. Yeah, I think it's your gut.
And his is vacuous, undefined. It's might as well just replace the word field with the word God, because that's all it is. It's a
You know what it is that you can't. I was gonna do this slow, but that's stupid. You can't. I got a notification that distracted me. You can't wrap your head around understanding what you've been told. So you say that it's ambiguous and vacuous. It's not really anything. Yeah, because you can't describe it. That's if it was so simple. I mean, yours is simple, and I can describe it. Not every detail, because every detail is blurry.
made up. Let's just imagine stuff and call it science. And then he insults other people's integrity in terms of these conversations.
I didn't insult your integrity. Your integrity would be that you don't believe it, which you said you think I really believe your system is so cool that I'm jealous and so I won't admit it. That's an insult to my integrity. I haven't insulted your integrity just because you're a fool. I'm just saying when it comes to physics, your ideas are foolish. So I see a big difference between that and your integrity. You know, not every aspect of your quality as a being is your integrity. Your integrity is that you are honest, you stick by your own ethics, you know, possibly you treat people well.
And just an amazing hypocrite. So, on with the show.
So, you know, it doesn't matter how you treat people. And, you know,
yeah, just an ironic statement. I don't know what I've already said it. I mean, if anybody wishes to contend who started with the insults, let's go back and
no, I've never insulted where you live, how tall you are, your face, your weight, whether you were sick or had a black eye. I, I didn't start that because I still don't do that.
you want to make the argument, go ahead. Show Piero being respectful and in any way responsive to the details or to the depth of the theoretical change in perspective I've offered.
It's like asking me, why don't I dive down 30 feet in the shallow end of the pool? because it's not 30 feet deep.
Show me that, and then you've got an argument. But you won't be able to show me that because he trivialized it and mocked it, saying things like,
I didn't. Yeah. Show me starting out mocking. I just watched a video from 5 years ago, and I was very respectful. As a matter of fact, I was talking about. I like the idea, the conception that matter is really little bits of energy moving at light speed, but somehow wrapped in, kinked up, swirling around for some reason. And at the time, he was talking about trapezoids and geometric solutions to all this stuff. Didn't have tons yet. A different theory. And I was being very civil. But you require 100% uh, acceptance, or you could see the people in your comments agreeing with you, and you still just yell and are so upset about how stupid they are because they don't get it 100% right. And at the same time, you know that you think you're the only one that can get it 100% right, but you're hating on other people that don't see it the way you see it yet, which by your standards means they're not right, which shouldn't surprise you. And from my standards as a relativist, people have their own way of looking at things, and there's more than one apt way, apt, APT, of looking at things.
you should be embarrassed. That's the kind of rhetoric he used. And this is the
Yeah.
asshole saying there's some obligation to be respectful in a conversation. I mean,
The only thing I've ever said that you should be embarrassed about is the way you insult people like Feynman. And you've softened up on that. Now you complain to Theoria that he does it, but you still do it. You just softened it up a bit.
you just can't be more of a fucking hypocrite. Again, I'll argue if somebody can
Than you.
find a time where I started insulting somebody first, go ahead and find it.
Yeah, I'm totally a case like that. You entirely started insulting me first. You blocked me first, you insulted me first, and it doesn't really matter, or else I wouldn't still keep talking to you. But what I do wish and where I'm disappointed is I thought that I didn't know you were so confused about the difference between the argument and saying a guy, fillets his own dog. You don't know the difference between those two things because one is just a more subtle version of the other. No, I don't think so. When I'm talking about your physics and trying to explain things, and you say that physicists for 100 and 400 years have just been lying and they make up the results of all their experiments that show, to the contrary, all that data is a big lie because they're in a big club. I have to be honest, on the subject, I have to say that's foolishness. I don't think that's deep, right? That's different than trying to character assassinate you and call you a liar. I just think you're deluding yourself. But I don't think you're a liar. Though now it's a cloudy issue for me because it's hard to believe that you believe some of the stuff that you're saying, but I know that people can simply not think about the stuff that they're saying. I mean, do you really watch your own videos and think about it, or you just think it's justified because somebody else started it? Well, who cares who started it? How about this? How about every video of the last couple months people compare who was more insulting. I will have said some things about how silly your system is, which, yeah, I justify from you're being really rude. There's no reason not to be honest about the subject at hand, the real subject, which is your crazy system that is rude and just it's it's offensive what you say about every other person that's interested in these subjects and the experiments they've done, that they're all liars in a cabal together. That's stupid. Now you think that's the same as when you're going to say something terrible about me or insult something about me or be petty. I don't like to spell in comments, And I think it's great if you're going to point that out, because that's an old thing I've always done to see. It's a petty detector. You're going for whatever you can at any moment. You feel that insulted. Well, I'd say you're a super hypersensitive person, and that's why you feel that insulted. Because all I've done is the honor of taking your ideas seriously enough to discuss them. And when you get rude, you certainly can't expect a bunch of diplomacy. All right. And still, I don't go off on tangents just to insult you, which you always do. And I know you're going to do it. That's the way you are. And that's the problem with your conversation ultimately. That's why it's ridiculous for you to think that the people at Physics Forum are obliged to go through that. You don't seem to understand that if Theoria goes there and discusses his system, he'll be calling them fucktards in no time. And there's a lot of you who your attitude is, you're all a bunch of liars in a big club. Fuck you, fuck you. There's a lot of you. And that's a problem for you.
So I don't think you can.
I'm here not like the Physics Forum. I am willing to talk to you, even though you do those things. But I thought I was tolerating, uh, you know, an emotional sensitivity, an emotional condition, I think, or whatever you've described it as, and diagnosable or not, to get to the conversation of the ideas of how should we change the democracy, and should we commit suicide, should we have children. A lot of different people and people with emotional drives do that. And on the internet, it's easy to, overlook that, unless it really is the argument. It is, and that's what it looks like. You do these things to distract from and obscure any actual conversation, and then you're maligning other people, and it's just like tolerating the fake news. It's like tolerating someone that says the moon landing was faked. Yeah, I tolerate them as a human being, but their argument can't be tolerated. So I don't insult you as a human being, but I do insult your argument, because it's just as ludicrous as that, right? That there was this cabal of liars. None of the experimental physicists have ever been honest. It's like some big Masonic cult. It's ridiculous in all the countries across the world, but they all just happen to agree perfectly. It's asinine. There's no other way to describe it. Help people, their penis is too small, or haha, you have a black eye, or you're too skinny.
I don't know who I call too skinny. But
you didn't call anybody too skinny. I threw in an example that you didn't do, because it was, which of these things are all similar? So I use a few that you've done and then a few that you haven't done. You haven't noticed that technique? Yeah, I don't just choose things you did. I'm talking about a kind of thing.
whatever. Like I said, it doesn't. Once the
Whatever.
insult
Whatever.
door is opened, you're fascist.
No, the doors are not opened. I don't do those kinds of insults. I will insult your ideas. I might even call them stupid and go, is that too far? But it's your idea.
It's the attitude that you can only use insults that you approve. It's just more of your arrogance and your piety and why you should be.
No, I'm not saying you can only use insults I approve. I'm saying I disapprove of your particular brand of insult. I enjoy if you could make a funny jab at my philosophy. For example, you called me phantasmagorical. You calling me phantasmagorical, that's a character assassination by your definition, but not by mine. You're trying to characterize the way you see my philosophies. I found that cute and quaint, like a puppy sneeze, pretty much. And I like that word. I've used that word now, if you've noticed. So you would have taken great insult, because I'm way more objective than you in terms of being able to measure how reality is, how things turn out based on when you do things. doing actual experiments, finding out actual results, admitting when my common sense uh, needed to be updated to take into account something as I grew older and matured and had an experience I learned about from actual experience.
Mocked and ridiculed. Who the fuck are you to tell everybody how they're going to insult each other now? I mean, you'll do it your way. You'll take no responsibility for it, and then you'll critique how other people
I think it should be on topic. Yeah, of course I'll critique that. Why the hell shouldn't I critique that?
insult. Fuck you. That's an insult, by the way. Fuck you.
Yeah, I don't really mind the fuck you so much. I think the way you've been talking to Hypocrisy is ridiculous. I see him insulting your intelligence and things like that that are in fair play of ideas, as far as I'm concerned. And it just means that you're not welcome in anywhere where the kind of insults you like aren't welcome.
You.
You stupid shirt or any of those things. It detracts from the reason I'm here, the argument.
Yeah, whatever. Well, go look at your own commenters and see the raggy crap.
I'm not responsible for my like Carmel, my commenters. See, this is what I mean about you just go for anything that's convenient, that's just nearby at that moment. You're not thinking broadly like, okay, are you responsible for your commenters? Yeah, I'll be responsible. Well, it doesn't matter whether you would be or not responsible. You're not responsible. Those that's not stuff I said, Gary. I mean, how desperate can you be?
Crappy remarks they make that have absolutely nothing to do with the subject or nothing to do with them having any authority on the subject or demonstrating any intelligence on the subject. Just gross insults after gross insult. And
well, your commenters insult me. And guess what? It doesn't really matter. It doesn't pertain to the argument. We're talking about how you behave. How you behave. You. And me, we're talking about me too. Talking about how we behave to each other. I think sometimes I have crossed the line. Very rarely, and not as a practice that I make big old defenses of.
that's okay with you. You comment affirmatively to their insultive remarks.
Well, that's not true. I do sometimes agree with people's negative assessment of your science, but prove it. I don't know what you're talking about. When if people said you're fat and your black eye is stupid, and your Lyme's disease is stupid, you're fat, and they said that to you, I guess it'd be like Gary's those things. I would not be like, yeah, no, I don't chime in on that. So I don't think you're lying, but I do think that you're like, it's a willful negligence to be more careful in what you say. You'll just say whatever.
So you are just such a fucking hypocrite, and you're all just goddamn pussies. I don't give a fuck. You can insult me all day long, but the point is somewhere in there you're going to have to make an argument. And the real point is, as I pointed out, every argument you make is a crappy one.
No, I make 90% arguments, 10% or maybe 60% argument, and 30% commentary and frame background information. No, don't eat that. No. And and some of it might be things like calling your philosophy stupid at this point because you're so rude to me, and I feel like, well, that's in the bounds. You can say something about the ideas. Don't get me wrong. I'm not telling you what you have to do because I don't get to tell you what you have to do. I'm telling you that your rude way of discussing your lame ideas means that it's your fault that you can't talk about them on the physics forums.
You use bogus evidence, distortions, and perversions of the truth as your counter arguments, and they're just obnoxious.
But I don't think that all those 100 years of experiments were all lies. That's wild claim on your part. That's a conspiracy theory. And you don't even offer any proof. You go, look, you can see. But no, I looked and I saw that those experiments have been done, as have a lot of other people seen them done. And from where many people are standing, it looks like you're the one that has a weird perspective on that matter.
It's obnoxious how big a fucking liar you are.
You do deal with it a lot, and sometimes you get into psychoanalysis and things that seem relevant and can be.
Yeah, whatever. That's your bag, okay? Again, that's another thing where what you're expecting anybody else to give a fuck about that. I mean, if I call somebody a kook, it means, yeah, fuck you. You're a kook. I don't sit there and say, oh, well, there might be something interesting in the kookakery. No, I don't really want to analyze their stupidity, their psychosis. Holiday obviously has some sort of bent to evade any. On with the show.
Well, you don't seem to see.
I mean, if I call somebody a kook, it means, yeah, fuck you. You're a kook.
But the thing is, you don't seem to see when those physics forums guys say, huh, you're a kook. Get the hell out of here, Gary. That's terrible. People should have a better honor than that. For fuck's sake. Stop. What's the deal? Oh, dog wants some attention. Okay. Yeah. They just want some attention. You want to go outside? You want to go outside? Oh no! That's okay. You're not in trouble. You better not have broken it. Hello. Still working. Okay. Well, that's the end of part one. No, you stay down for a sec. Oh, come on. Stop. Stop. Let me click the thing.